This is what I imagine. My father was dying from a diseased lung, liver, or kidney. Whichever the ailing organ, its decaying condition had been described to him as having the consistency of a haggis. That is how the Indian doctor from Calcutta had described the infected appendage. Spotted like a haggis, it muttered as he stared at the ghostly image that was scorched on the grey and white X-ray film in the ward, where only one fluorescent tube worked, and the fly strip, loaded with its catch, hung limp from the ceiling. Through the rusty mosquito-netted window, the earth was red and the sky a brilliant blue, as it always is in Africa. The Indian doctor from Calcutta had recently received a letter from his brother in Birmingham, England. In the letter, his brother had told him that he'd travelled to Scotland. In the letter, he'd written down the ingredients for haggis. These are the ingredients that were listed for the Indian doctor from Calcutta by his brother from Birmingham, England. 1 sheep's stomach bag, 1 sheep's pluck, liver, lungs and heart, 3 onions, 250 grams of beef suet, 150 grams of oatmeal, salt and black pepper, a pinch of cayenne, 150 mils of stock or gravy. My father would have only snorted in response to the description because it was an accurate one and not one for discussion. The Indian doctor from Calcutta, who also owned the general dealer store and drove occasionally the only imported car, had no need to pull punches or dance the verbal tango with his words. He'd seen worse. He would have, since the entire African continent in his eyes was ill and looking like a haggis, dark and spotted and congealed. It was diseased. That is what he often told his wife when he helped serve the pot-bellied, runny-nosed children from behind the counter in their store. Occasionally he would add the word damn to this description, but that was when he was angry because the leghorn chickens from the street had fouled in the store or had stepped onto the bonnet of his imported car. Damn dark, spotted and congealed, damn continent, is what he said out loud, now more often than usual. The hospital in which my father was dying was of government design. That meant it had a corrugated iron roof and was built in the shape of a square with a courtyard and a wide porch. It had a tree in the centre of the courtyard and a concrete bench. The outside walls of the hospital were painted yellow with a green skirt. The hem of the skirt was now stained with the red of the earth, and the yellow had lost its yellow. The roof, which popped and whispered in the heat, was silver in colour, and in the evening the branches of the tree would attract the hens to roost. There was one tap of running water, which was attached to the borehole pump alongside the dirt road in the courtyard. A not-so-ill patient would have been nominated to guard over this precious commodity. The tap leaked, and the pool of water attracted many worker bees during the day. On the porch, waiting patients would sit with their backs against the wall and wait. Their babies would offer a chorus of sounds, and the waiting men would spit lumps of phlegm from TB-infested lungs into dirty rags. And they would wait and wait for the Indian doctor from Calcutta, who was an extremely busy person. My father would have been able to see these waiting patient people from his bed in his private room. He would have been able to see them through the only door as he lay on his back on the rough grey blankets and the overstarched linen. Perhaps he admired their tenacity, the occasional gesturing of mothers as they waved off persistent flies or pushed away the noses of ever-hungry stray dogs. Perhaps he didn't. He was, after all, an African himself, white-skinned, but African. These sights and sounds were not unknown to him. And then maybe he was looking and listening elsewhere by now, had reached that mental space where he was looking and hearing far beyond his current whereabouts. A little soul-searching, I wonder, but also doubt. My father's room had been painted the traditional government-issue puke green, the colour of a growing lemon on a sick tree. The floor was red and polished, and there would have been a framed photograph of the country's current dictator hung on the wall. The mosquito mesh over the window would be rusted. The ceiling would be sagging a little, shaped like a pregnant woman's belly, and there was a water stain in the shape of the island of Madagascar in the corner. He would have a small white metal table beside him with a jug of water and a glass. That is all. In my mind, This is the place where he was to die. In his reverie, my father would listen to the popping and the sighing of the corrugated iron roof above him. He would listen to the chorus of babies and the occasional tap-tap of a nurse's heel as she walked along the porch. At sunset, he would hear the waiting patients leave the hospital quietly and without complaint. They would return the following day as the sun rose. The smell of distant cooking fires would intrude into the room, flavoured with the taste of maize meal and curry. If and when it rained, my father would listen to the raindrops hammering onto the sheet metal roof and perhaps, as I did as a child, think of machine guns and advancing armies. He would smell and feel the air chill when it rained. When the night came, a nurse would have given him a paraffin lamp with a spluttering wick. In its light, he would have watched the dancing shadows on the walls and listened to the barking of stray dogs. My father did sleep, or at least he tested sleep, but sleep, when you are dying, offers up a troubled darkness, and I think that if I were my father, I would have avoided it. Dozed, but not slept, for fear of never awakening. The Indian doctor from Calcutta would make his rounds 3 times a day. He wore a white jacket and had a stethoscope round his neck. He wore black shoes that had hard heels so he could be heard approaching from a distance. Clipped onto his breast pocket were 3 biro pens, blue, black, and red, and a small flashlight for looking into a person's eyes. On his wrist he wore a fake Rolex watch that was sent to him by a cousin from Bombay, along with 3 cans of sugared lychee and a photograph of a Bollywood starlet. The Indian doctor from Calcutta also wore a woman's perfume. It was Chanel No. 5 from Paris, France. The salesman had left the sample bottle at the store months ago. The Indian doctor from Calcutta had told his wife that there was never a chance in hell of selling such an item on this damn dark-spotted and congealed damn continent, and that the salesman responsible would be in need of a new job soon. Always following the Indian doctor from Calcutta was a nurse from Abuja, Nigeria, who was as thin as a bird and as dark as ebony. She was new to the hospital, and she did not like being in my father's ward. He could sense that in her because she always looked away from him and found interest in her bare feet or in the map of Madagascar on the ceiling. What my father did not know was that this nurse from Abuja, Nigeria, was feeling guilty to see such a large, broad-shouldered white man lying on a thin metal bed waiting to die. She was ashamed because she knew there was nothing to be done for this man. She was ashamed for him and others like him. That is why she looked at her bare feet on the red-polished floor. She was ashamed to look death in the face. The little silver watch she wore over her heart, awarded to her at the nursing school in Abuja, Nigeria, was to be used to calculate a man's pulse, not to record its fluttering and ultimate demise. The Indian doctor from Calcutta would use his stethoscope and listen to my father's chest. "Breathe in, breathe out," he would say. "And again, please." Amplified in his ears, the doctor from Calcutta would hear the gurgling and dying of the haggis. He would close his eyes to this sound as he listened, and he would imagine himself driving on the long road to the city with the Bollywood starlet sitting beside him in his American car. "Not good," he would finally say. He would use the red biro pen to write on my father's chart. "I will prescribe more painkiller. Understand, nurse?" "Yes, doctor," the nurse from Nigeria would chirp in response as she studied the southern tip of Madagascar and wondered who lived and died on that part of the island. "Are you sleeping better?" my father would be asked. His response was in the negative. "Eating?" His response with a shrug. This I can appreciate. The scoff, food, here is minimal, and the cook, if I may loosely describe him as that, is ignorant, but we do our best, as I am most certain you can understand. Perhaps I must put you on a vitamin drip. That will provide you some nutrition. Yes, that is what I will do. I will order it, and it will come by the truck. And then the doctor from Calcutta would leave, followed by the nurse from Nigeria, and my father would remain in his bed listening to a baby crying somewhere in the hospital and his nose inhaling the ghostly scent of Chanel No. 5 from Paris, France. That is where my mind wants to leave my father for the moment. On his bed and staring at his bare feet, as most men are wont to do when there is little or nothing to be done. Yes, staring at his bare feet. Our feet consist of 26 bones, 7 of which are the thick, short tarsal bones comprising the